All right. So we're going to start it off in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so here we go. I was a little bit reluctant into doing this particular content, right? Because there's a lot of controversies and stigma in terms of the people that, let's say, live the underground type of world, right? The underworld and what have you. There's a stigma, at least with a minority of people, where you just can't talk about anything. And once again, here's something that I may have to re-educate you on what is considered quote unquote snitching. It is when you cooperate with a government force, whether that would be the police or federal agents, to give information on a way to indict somebody as a result of that information that you are giving to whatever agency that you are dealing with. That is snitching. Giving news is not snitching, because in order to give news, you have to get information that is already confirmed, past due, and in past tense, and most of the times within reasons of, let's say, not facing double jeopardy if you were to talk about a crime that you had already done in the past and have been convicted for, and as a result have faced jail time for. Okay, so once again, please understand there is a difference. So giving out news about Conor McGregor being a potential member of the Irish cartel should not be a shock to anybody. And why do I say that? Because you look at who Conor McGregor's sister is married to. And I'm not going to mention any names because that's just really the extent of the homework you have to do in terms of looking at who Conor McGregor's sister is and who she's married to. And you're going to find an information that is known around the world just within the tip of your fingers in looking through Google of who these people are and who they're affiliated with. So once again, you're not sharing anything that is brand new. Okay, so please understand that. You're not sharing anything brand new to the world. Conor McGregor's sister is married to an Irish assassin of the Irish cartel that is affiliated with Daniel Kinihan. And that right there is just real public information that is out there that you can look up. Now, is it plausible to say that Conor may have bought his position into the Irish cartel? Yeah, why not? Here's something you got to understand about people like Conor McGregor, people like Chris Brown, and a lot of these rappers that you see around you. They all want to be dangerous. And by the way, who doesn't? In terms of being dangerous in having protection, in terms of knowing how to defend yourself with a firearm or unarmed situations. So, hold on, let me just make sure that I'll. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to make sure that we have a different mic setting right now. So I wanted to get out of the headphones. Okay, so what I was saying earlier was that all men want to be dangerous in different degrees, okay? For example, most people who are in the rap world, a lot of them will do what you call an LA check-in, right? What exactly does that mean? It means that they go in and check in with a gang. Now, is it because that these gangs particularly run Los Angeles to the 10th degree of, let's say, being a TSA agent, or the ones that are doing border checkings or things of that nature. No, that's not what they do. What most gang members do is serve an order of protection. Okay, and that's why when a lot of these rappers, they come here from out of town, not from LA or not from California, that is why they quote unquote check in, so that if they get pressed on by other troubled individuals in this particular part of the world, guess what? They have backup against other troubled individuals that may be rivals to those. So everybody wants to look dangerous. That is the bottom line that I'm trying to say. And once again, you got to understand that I'm only speaking in terms of entertainment. Do I really know for sure that Conor McGregor is an Irish cartel member or a leader? Okay, I'm going to tell you, a lot of that is not impossible. But then you would think, why would a guy who's worth 100 million, maybe even close to $1 billion, want anything to do with the likes of Daniel Kinihan or the likes of any of the Irish mobsters that are known on the FBI's most wanted list? Well, I got to tell you this, right? Okay, there's a lot of information that I'd like to say that I'm just going to withhold, right? In terms of how certain people operate when it comes to, let's say, hiding money or laundering money and what have you, right? So a lot of these things are not out of the realm of possibility. But at the same time, I'd rather not speculate, but rather talk about what is reality. And here's some of the realities that you can try to understand. Conor McGregor's sister is married to a Daniel Kinihan member. So that's really important to understand. Now, why is that significant to know? Because it ties in to what is going on with the potential reason as to why his fight got canceled. Let's speculate. Is it an injury? There's a great possibility that Conor McGregor's injury is a real thing, but is it enough for him to really pull out of a fight? Maybe. But you also got to understand that there was this woman that was planning on suing Conor McGregor because she got thrown out of a yacht in Spain. Another Irish woman, by the way, an Irish woman that Conor went to high school with, and she decided that she wanted to drop the charges after she got home invaded. Now you put all those pieces together and you think, man, you know what? That's a dangerous dude. I would not want to mess with him. Obviously, it's one thing to be dangerous and knowing how to fight, but then there's a different level of danger where you got dudes that have guns that can ride for you and that can do things for you with a drop of a couple of bands of thousands of dollars in your pocket. Hey, go run up on this and do this and that and make my problems go away. That's not impossible. It's not impossible to do that. However, you also got to understand a lot of what I'm saying right now is just pure speculation, and we may never know. And for all you know, I may never put this out on a public stream again, because a lot of the situations that we are talking about right now is just extremely controversial in terms of Conor McGregor and his possible ties. And how about this? How about Daniel Kinihan? Where has he been? Anybody ever wondered that? It's a good guess to ask, considering that this guy was wanted by the FBI during the time of when I believe Tyson Fury was fighting Dillian Whyte. And during that time, the FBI clamped down on Daniel Kinihan, MTK, which, by the way, was a real big brand back in the days. Okay? Real big brand. And why? Because Daniel Kinihan was funding it. He was creating gyms across Marbella in Spain, in Portugal. And then on top of that, giving these fighters proper funds and proper equipment and even training facilities in order to reach their highest potential. And then the FBI came and clamped down on him because he is a known Irish drug lord. And in Conor McGregor's case, he's not the first guy who wants the help of a notorious crime family in order to solidify his sense of being a dangerous man outside of the octagon. All entertainers do it, all rappers do it, and that's just one thing you got to understand. Everybody wants to be a dangerous guy. And once again, I'm not talking about just fighting wise. I'm talking about really in terms of your influence in the streets and what you can do. Every guy wants that. Now, you may say that you don't. You may say that, you know what, I just want a normal life. Don't really bother anybody or anything like that. All right, that's cool. But there are people out there that have a certain dark matter in their brain that will motivate them to want a notorious Irish cartel to help them in whatever endeavors that they need, whether it would be anything that I can't mention. But that also includes all types of other gangs and all types of different cultures that are tied into the crime underworld. For example, if you're an African-American rapper from Florida, believe it or not, your biggest approval that you want are gangs in California. And you want to know what's crazy about that? Here's the reality of many gang members in California. A lot of them are coming off of prison bids, having a real hard life, having to struggle with keeping a job. Some can maintain a job and God bless them, and then there's a lot that just can't. And then there's a lot that can't get a job because some of them have face tattoos, they have insane records, or just don't have good social skills in order for them to get ahead into that part of the world. So they struggle. But guess what? When they come home to their gang, to their crew, to their territory and their neighborhoods, the one thing that they can capitalize on, believe it or not, is being hooligans. Why? Because when you have a group of men around you that are willing to commit a certain level of atrocities in the name of whatever you wish to be, you have a different power than that of the average civilian. And that right there is the attraction to Conor McGregor's potential ties with the Irish mob. But among other news, then there's the Saudis now looking for much more than what they gotten for the Saudi Arabia card yesterday. Now, I got to tell you, it was a great event. The fights were great. The first fight was a first-round knockout, as well as the last fight of the night was a first-round knockout. Obviously, the Road to UFC Asia card did not count as a first fight. That was its own fight and what have you. But nonetheless, up and down, the fight was great, right? The entire card was absolutely perfect. So, other than that, the Sheikh was really forceful towards Dana White in letting him know, hey, you know what? I want this many events and I want this many people in the seats. And even bigger cards. So, yeah, I gotta say, man, a great weekend of fights nonetheless. But honestly, you know, it's a slow Sunday. It was a great weekend of fights. I also got to see the Bellator card. I got to see the main event, the co-main event, and Conor McGregor being a big part of the show. So one of his fighters, I forgot what her last name was, but she lost the fight, which I believe it was against a British woman that she lost the fight to. So in comes Dan Hardy, by the way, now an executive for the PFL, and you know the PFL and Bellator are now tied together. So as a result, he goes in there and asks Conor McGregor a question, sort of doing a throwback in the way that they did back in the old UFC days of, let's say, 2014, when Dan Hardy used to interview Conor McGregor in his earlier days. That's sort of the look that Dan Hardy was going for. But the attention was all on Conor, weirdly enough. And even after his boy, who was in the co-main event, they still shot the camera on Conor McGregor reacting to the main event. I thought, this is interesting. Okay, there's something really interesting about this. They're trying to use Conor McGregor as a clout because they knew that they had to go head-to-head with the UFC Saudi Arabia on the same day. Now, to be quite honest with you, I don't know much of the time slot, but hey, if you got a Middle Eastern and European card, rest assured that if you're watching this in California, you're going to be watching that in the afternoon. So they are overlapping each other, right? So what do you do to compete with that? Just put Conor McGregor on the screen of a Bellator fight. And that's exactly what they did. So that was the weird part about watching Bellator, but it was a great fight. That Dagestani dude that took on Jackson went to a 5-round decision. A few good finishes, a few good scraps on the main card. But again, the UFC is the king, and the UFC ruled the entire week, or the whole entire weekend of fights. There was a boxing card, I believe, on DAZN, and I have yet to watch it. I'm probably going to watch it, make a reaction out of it, and then also do sort of like a review of all the fights that had gone on this weekend. Do a little bit of a review. Not all the fights in Bellator, but obviously all the fights in the UFC, some of the fights in Bellator, and maybe even the boxing card that I have yet to watch, as it is Sunday night right now in Sacramento, California. So, going back to the Saudis and what they're asking for with the UFC, let's talk about another controversial topic that sort of relates to this. The concept of sports washing. Now, what exactly does sports washing really mean? It means when a government is trying to use sports entities in order to make their country look good in a public relations positive light. That's sort of my own long-winded explanation and definition for it, but nonetheless, here's what it is. Here's something you got to understand. There have been allegations against the Saudis. Just like most countries get all types of allegations, but you also got to understand they are a monarchy that sort of operates in a system where if they want something done, they only have to ask one man, and that one man with a snap of his fingers can do it. And guess what? You see that in boxing right now. The fact that they want Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou straight away, that is power. That is also the same power that a lot of people around the world are complaining about when they talk about the Saudis and their so-called sports washing. Now, you also got to understand this. From a fair perspective and an objective point of view, States in America also engages in squashing. What do you think America did in the 2004 Olympics? It was a form of sports washing. Why? Because we went into the Olympics in 2004, competed with the rest of the world, participated with the rest of the world, and for the reason being that we wanted to show some sort of loyalty and partnership with this global community from the planet. That's the reality of sports washing. Now, how did the U.S. do in 2004? I don't know. I think that's besides the point. It's also besides the point that right now there isn't yet a Saudi superstar like Conor McGregor or a Khabib, but obviously rest assured they're going to develop one in the future. But for now, what their main goal is to attach themselves into these organizations and promotions, and as a result, use it as a way to create a positive outlook for themselves in an international competing market, but also create a different type of economic prosperity in their country that is beyond just oil reserves. So we're talking tourism. They already make money with Mecca, being that there's a lot of people from around the world that come and do pilgrimage. That alone is an economic prosperity for Saudi Arabia. Oh, here we go. We have the 13th assassin from UAE. What's up, my man? Salam, brother. All the way from Dubai. What will happen between UAE and the UFC, specifically if they have an agreement since Fight Island and before? So how the Saudis will come in the picture? Okay, so that is a very good question, 13th Warrior. And you know what? This is great that he came in here and asked this question straight away, because I was just really planning on just ending the stream at a sooner point, but I'm going to answer this question right now. The Saudis coming into the picture, what they're going to do is just add on to what the UFC is already doing on a yearly basis, on the continuous basis of their yearly trajectory of calendars and events that they put on. So in other words, nothing is going to change other than the Saudis throwing a little bit of money around to facilitate whatever it is that they need. So for example, the UFC is going to be sponsored by the Saudis in September, and it's going to be a Vegas card. Now, why is that significant for the Saudis, even though it is a Vegas card, but yet they are not fighting in Riyadh? Well, they are using Vegas as a way to spread the word of Riyadh, use that as, let's say, a poster as to say, hey, look at our vacation spots. We are just like Dubai. We are just like the UAE. And not only that, this is what we can offer to the world. We also have UFC. We also will have UFC in our own countries, as well as sponsor it here in the Sphere in September. That is where the Saudis come into the picture of the UFC. And with the UAE, to answer your question, I think it's going to be business as usual. 13th Warrior Assassin, in your question that you have right there. It's going to be business as usual. Now, why is that? Well, you have to understand this, right? The UFC will do business with whoever is going to facilitate them great venues, great gate numbers, and not only that, great clout with whatever it is that that city has going on. So, for example, if they were to do a Real Madrid show, or I'm sorry, a pay-per-view in Madrid, is that a possibility? 1,000% it's a possibility. And you want to know why? Because Spain is a country right now that is rich with avid soccer fans. And you know who else is a big soccer fan? Ilia Topuria. And as a result of Ilia Topuria being a big soccer fan and Real Madrid putting a stamp on him, I urge you to just look up how many millions of followers they have. Real Madrid. And then you'll realize the popularity that can be offered by Ilia Topuria and Spain and the show that they can do in that country. So I hope that answers the question for the 13th Warrior Assassin from Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And yeah, it's still going to be business as usual. As you can see, Dana White said that they're going to throw Khamzat into an Abu Dhabi card. So as a result, what does that tell you? That tells you one thing. What that tells you is they're going to facilitate each other and complement each other in a way where, all right, let's say Khamzat now was not able to come and report and do a Saudi card. Okay, great, no problem. Let's throw him in an Abu Dhabi card. Okay, well, vice versa. What if, let's say, Islam was not able to come into a UFC UAE card? Let's say he had a fight canceled because, I don't know, he broke his toe, like supposedly what Conor McGregor said had happened to him, right? Okay, they'll replace that card and put him in a Saudi Arabia card if he can't make it to an Abu Dhabi or a Fight Island or Dubai card. That's what they're going to do. They're going to use those regions into, let's say, even with close proximities of having events back to back next to each other. So in other words, maybe in the future, maybe 2026 or 2027, you'll have a UAE card on an October card, and then you'll have a Saudi card in a November or December or somewhere in between. But the bottom line is their whole entire goal and what they're trying to do is build a catalog. And not only that, build content. So that means weeks and weekly fights. Like the fights that you've not seen maybe last week that was on the Apex, that's content for them. And that's content that you can consume. One day, you could be sitting in a plane and out of nowhere, you think to yourself, brilliant, you know what? I'll watch the fight that I didn't get to see last week, right? And then all you got to do is get on your ESPN app. It's right there and you can watch it. That is the purpose and the reason why they are building a high catalog, because the more events that they do, the different countries and regions that they touch, as a result of that, it just creates more opportunities for different fighters and different competitors. But not only that, it creates an opportunity of building a high volume catalog that they can sell to ESPN as something that is extremely valuable to their brand. So for now, that is all that I have. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And check out my past videos. Check out my coverage that I did for UFC Saudi Arabia yesterday. I had about maybe now almost 700 people from around the world tap in on that one. Check out all my past videos. Some of the hottest videos that I have in my catalog right now that are still from a couple of months ago was the David Benavidez and the Canelo one. Man, Ikram and Diaz got his head handed to him. Did you see that? Yes, I did. Oh, okay. And then you also said here, also, if I may add, Saudi and UAE behind closed doors are not in good terms. Okay, so this is interesting that you brought this up. This is interesting that you brought this up. I'll tell you why, right? Because I gotta be honest with you, man. Like, they're not in good terms. Saudi will pay whatever the UFC asks, especially when they are trying to become a tourist hub and a business hub. It's a cold war between the two. Okay. All right. So 13th assassin. I'm sorry I didn't read that part. But yes, Ikram, man. Ikram Diaz. You said Ikram Diaz. You're calling him Ikram Diaz, got handed to him. I don't know if that was a typo or if you're calling him Diaz, but let me know, elaborate on that a little bit. But to elaborate more on what you are saying about Saudi Arabia and UAE, I think, man, I got to be honest with you, man. You brought up something that I think is a video-worthy topic, 13th Assassin. Thank you. I want to thank you for that, okay? Because that is very valuable information. You know what? Yeah, that is very valuable information. What did you say here? Because he looks like Nick and Islam had a... Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you mean. I see exactly what you mean. Because, yeah, he does have sort of that built, right? You know, that sort of, I don't know how to, describe it, like sort of like a swimmer's built in a way. He says, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I appreciate the analysis on that. So, okay. So, how I see it is, I think Dana White is really going to have to play his serious game in terms of negotiating, right? Especially negotiating amongst competing factors that is going on right now. By the way, 13th Assassin, man, you just gave me a whole different light into this particular stream right now, right? The UAE and Saudi Arabia are not close friends, and yet they are both dealing with the UFC. Man, that right there, that's a lot to take in. But I tell you what, I think Dana White really has to put on his A game when it comes to negotiating and to dealing with these two guys, and has to do it in a very organized fashion. And let me explain why. So imagine if they start competing for certain dates, right? Oh, well, I want the October date, or I want the November date, or I want this venue or this and that. Well, okay, do you offer this venue? I'll give this venue an even bigger spin, right? And once again, I got to be honest with you, a lot of this also sort of has a religious factor to it too. Because here's something I don't think a lot of people really understand outside of the Islamic community, right? Is it not true that in the Hadith it says in the end times, the signs of the end times won't come until you see the barefooted Bedouin Arabs compete amongst each other for the highest buildings. Now, isn't this sort of what you're seeing happening right now? Not only are the Arabs, which are the Emiratis, the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, all these guys that have rich oiled resources and are notorious for being ultra wealthy in the modern age, are now competing with each other for not only sporting events, but also the highest buildings in the world. So I'd like to thank 13th Assassin for bringing up such an interesting topic like that, and just giving this live stream a whole different, outlook into the topics that I'm talking about. What did he say here? He said here, yes, that's happening now. Also, the Arabs weren't known to build high structures. Yeah, and they were also not known to have been involved heavily in boxing the way that they do now. And now they're talking about buying PBC. Well, okay, that's last on the list, but Matchroom and Queensberry for sure, they are absolutely bought into the whole program with them. And yeah, man, now they're sort of doing that in the world of sports as well, because it's not just the Emiratis that are also doing F1 Formula Racing. Now the Saudis are in on that too. But right now, nobody is beating the Saudis at boxing, and that's just what it is. They just did a real good job at boxing, and now they want to emulate that into mixed martial arts and just attach themselves to the UFC. But for now, all right, that's all that I got right now, guys. Thank you. You guys gave me a few good ideas, especially 13th Assassin, into some video topics in the coming weeks. Inshallah, I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and watch from the very beginning to the end of this particular live stream. And last, we'll leave it with the final comment from 13th Assassin. He says, UAE and the Saudis are beefing on many issues. One of the main reasons is Yazat Island, which is full of fuel. Okay, so yeah, that would be a reason to fight. Saudi raised a case in the UN claiming that the islands are theirs. All right. And with that, shout out to 13th Assassin for dropping another knowledge on that. Take care, brother. Thank you. May Allah bless you and us. Fardus. Inshallah, brother. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. And also share. Share with anybody that you know would be interested in this content. And I will be dropping more content in the years to come, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.